She was no leading artist. Okay, well, yeah.
Is it that like nobody knew who she was and nobody knows why he painted it?
Well, there is some mystery, and I won't get too in depth about that. I found there are some interesting theories about it. Supposedly, she was some merchant's daughter, and that this was a painting done, for a portrait done, and as was common in those days, wealthy people, this wealthy merchant said, "Hey, paint my daughter." There's another theory that says it's a self-portrait, and he made himself feminine, for the portrait. It's a female version of himself. That's a theory that's out there, and obviously it's very difficult to, we're talking about hundreds of years ago, actually nailing down exactly what happened. But I can't say for sure what happened. I tend to believe myself the traditional story of, it's a wealthy guy's daughter, and he paid good money, and supposedly, I guess, Da Vinci had a reputation for not finishing stuff he started, and supposedly there was some kind of antagonism, some urging him, "Hey, come finish this, come finish this job that you promised you'd do," or whatever. But I haven't nailed down whatever the definitive truth. Obviously, if there's that disparate of theories, it's really difficult for someone that's not getting their PhD in that area to really know what's going on. Nevertheless, it is what it is, and that's what I want to point out when we're talking about philosophy of art. It is, in fact, to a group of people in this world, worth so much that they can't even put a price tag on it, which is fascinating, because you can put a price tag on just about anything, but this thing that's, made up of someone's hard work and skill and a little bit of oil paint and canvas, that the materials alone are obviously of no value, but the fact that he pulled this thing together and it survived all these centuries has made it, invaluable, or so it's been deemed. How many of you could put a price? If you owned this thing, how many of you could? Oh, I know, yeah. Real quick. I'd start coming up with figures real fast. Yeah. You would, yeah. I could think of how many sport bikes I could buy, hook my wife up with a nice new car, maybe a little nicer home.
Several.
Several. My kids would be set, college paid for. So, but see, are we inside of that realm? Are we in that artistic world that the people who judge the value of these artworks are in? Are we in that realm? I'm not in that realm. Maybe you are in that realm. Any of you in that? You're not judges of artwork? Okay. Well, that's some of the stuff we're going to talk about is, how do you determine what art is? And when you determine what art is, how do you judge how good it is? Or how do you put a value on it? These kind of things. And that's really what we deal with philosophy of art.
You know what she's missing?
What's that?
You know what she's missing?
A price tag.
Let's see, her nose mount's all there, eyes are there. Eyebrows look a little faint.
She didn't have any eyebrows.
No eyebrows at all?
Oh.
Yeah. Well, maybe she shaved them. I knew somebody that shaved her eyebrows. In fact, my grandmother shaved her eyebrows. So,
See people shaving and then draw them back.
yeah, they had she had a little pin, that was the style back in the day. I guess that was like a 60s thing or something. Okay. Art is a human activity consisting in this, that one man consciously, by means of certain external signs, hands on to others feelings he has lived through, and that other people are infected by these feelings and also experience them. This is a quote from Leo Tolstoy. All right. Obviously, he's thinking broadly in artistic terms, being, one of the arts, of course, writing. But this is one perspective on what art is. One philosophy, if you will, of what art is, what it does, what makes something art. Okay. All right, the biggest question in philosophy of art, the biggest question is, how do you define it? How do you define art? All right, it's the essential, or this is, I should say, is the central issue in philosophy of art. And not all cultures have a concept of art that coincides with the Western European concept, which emerged during the Enlightenment period. All right, when all that's going on, and Mona Lisa, and these time frames when art in the Western world is changing and becoming more of what we know of art nowadays. It was during that time that the Western world really kind of set a standard of the general concept of art and what it is. But the question I raised at the bottom of the slide here is what justifies applying our concepts to the things that are produced in these other cultures? For example, in some of your African cultures, some of your Eastern, Near Eastern, Middle Eastern cultures, they do things a lot differently. And what they call art, we might just call, pottery, or, I remember when the paint splatter stuff, I call it the Esprit style, because back in the 80s, the Esprit was a girls' clothing line, or women's clothing line, that had the kind of paint splatter look a lot of times to it. So I call it the Esprit art. To some people, they would look and go, why are you paying a whole bunch of money for paint splatters? I mean, so their perspective would be different from ours, perhaps, about some things. But not all cultures have that same concept of art. So not all of them value things the way that Western, the European type, and of course American type perspective. Okay. There are pictures and paintings, buildings, songs, writings, all of which are not really art. Now, that might be debatable. Of course, you can think of some songs that are just sing-songy, or songs that are, for example, if it's just for commercializing something, is a jingle really art? Some would probably say yes, and some might argue that no, because it has an agenda to sell product. It's not really art for art's sake. It is not truly art. All right. What distinguishes these things that I mentioned from art? A brochure. I was looking at a brochure for things today. I mean, is it art? It's pictures of things and put into a brochure. Is that art? But yet, there are competitions for photography that, some photographs are definitely have an artistic value, even though they're a photograph. There's some artistry in the way that they took the picture and that kind of thing.